Hey, what's up, Shining Otaku? It's Cloud9
and over here.
And this is Shining Spotlight, the stream where we highlight the creatives in the industry in order to inspire you guys. Today is actually the first episode of the new year, and we're sitting down with a legendary writer with a lot of acclaim here. Known for the Cyber Techno series, or I should say the Cyber Techno epic comic known as Tribe, released back in the early days of Image Comics. It went on to later on sell more than any comic made by a Black creative of all time, like of all time period, guys. So this is some real stuff right here.
All right, that was a pretty good intro.
Thank you. Today we welcome the legendary writer of Tribe, Todd Johnson.
Jokes on you guys. This is the Johnson Bros stream right now.
That's right. I love it.
But yeah, I'm so glad to have you on today. I've honestly been wanting to talk to you for a long time. Like, I don't know, like a lot of people, like I've said to, some of the people in DTC, like Tion and everything, like I really want to talk to Todd Johnson so bad, because I mean, that's the inspiration. Like I write comics, so,
Anytime, man. I'll send you my number after this. I'm easy to reach out to.
Thank you, man. So I'm really curious as far as like, so of course, back in the day, you got started, doing Tribe just before, because I know there's probably a lot of like, listeners in there who may not be familiar with Tribe. Some of them are, the younger generation. I actually have a copy of Tribe, but for whatever reason, I can't find it right now. I got it like back at, Motor City Black Age, like a couple years ago. Larry Stroman was there.
Very cool.
Yeah, but would you care to explain just like the story of Tribe, very quickly, for the audience?
Are you gonna bring a tear to my eye putting the book on the thing? Did you want to know how Tribe came about, or just what Tribe's about, or?
Oh, we want to know all of that. Like seriously, like the whole thing. But I mean, I know there's probably some people who may not be familiar about the story of Tribe in particular. So
I had a very interesting way of how I got into comics. Most people won't get in this way, so it's not something I can tell anybody to be inspired by. This is how you do it, because it's a little more complicated. I actually owned a comic book store in Detroit, and actually in Ferndale, Michigan, called the Comics Cafe.
Yeah, I heard about that.
So we ended up at one point having about 4 stores. We had one in Grosse Pointe, we had one in Rochester, and one down in Midtown. So from there, the natural progression of owning a comic shop at that time was to start throwing conventions, so that you could tap into new customers, as well as start kind of hobnobbing with creators and stuff that you invited to come to the shows. So we started throwing some shows. One was called The Big Show, and one was called just the Comics Cafe Show. So that is where I met Larry Stroman. He was one of our guests back in the early 90s, right around the time he was on Alien Legion.
Oh yeah, and that was one of the. Well, I think he did that before X Factor, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was where he pretty much got discovered, hugely by comic fans, because it was one of the breakout hits for Epic Comics. Was a division of Marvel. Now, when we were throwing shows, we started just inviting all the people that most of my customers liked. So, we ended up, in the early days meeting the milestone guys like Dwayne McDuffie was invited, Dennis Collins, Dwayne Turner, who ended up doing Cage, Bart Sears. I mean, everybody, Javier Saltares and Mark Texiera from Ghost Rider. So over the years of throwing these conventions, me and Larry became pretty good friends. And over that time, he started working on X Factor. Which was a huge breakout book with the whole explosion with the X-Men series with Rob Liefeld, X-Force, and Jim Lee on X-Men, Will Spartaccio. So from there, as most people know from back then, the whole Image Comics things was like a whole exodus of the top comic artists at Marvel. So as a second phase, Larry Stroman was invited to do a book by the Image Comics founders. So from there, when he got that call, we happened to already be talking, and it also started out kind of like a comedy thing. He said, "Hey, you know how to write?" So I said, "Yeah." And he said, "You want to write a book?" I said, "Most definitely." And then he told me all about the Image thing, and then he flew to Detroit, and we spent a couple of weeks just talking about all the things we like in comics. It's really just kind of a natural progression of just two friends just talking about reading comics when they grew up. And that's where Tribe came from.
So when y'all were like basically just chopping it up or whatnot, like when was the moment when he was just like, you know what, like I'm talking about more like when did he decide, yeah, let's actually sit down and flesh this out and really try to make this into something?
Oh, it was almost immediate. Immediate when he got the call, he flew in town that weekend. Oh. So we started immediately, you know, over sandwiches and watching videotapes and reading comics, you know, and all the things that, I mean, you know, the basic, when you break down most comic creatives, whether you be a writer, artist, everybody can try as hard as they want to act all deep and that you had all this epiphany to do all these creative things, but we're basically just the same young kids that grew up however you were exposed to this, you know, whether it be through comics or whether it be you started reading just really books, your parents or from school, mythology, you know, it all, we're just, and I hate to use the term nerd because it's not that simple, but it's just people that like fantasy. I don't care if you like, you know, Star Wars or I grew up on Star Trek. I loved Star Trek as a kid. I loved, you know, Godzilla movies and stuff like that and comic books. So I find that deep down, a lot of people are pretty much the same, and they try to make it more intelligent now, you know, because to say you read comics back when I grew up, that was things people were hiding in their book bags because if they went to school, they didn't want anybody to know they were reading comics. But now comics are big business now, and it's okay now because the Marvel movies make $1 billion, and you're cool if you got a Captain America shirt on that you bought from Target or something. So now that it's mainstream, it's okay. But I mean, Tribe came out of just regular young conversations from kids talking about, I like guys that fly, I like guys that run fast, or I want a guy that's invisible, or I want a strong guy that's a big robot, or all the things, you know, if you hit somebody, I want him to split into a bunch of guys. And if you look at comics, there are some basic themes no matter how deep we try to be. You know, it's Superman, it's Batman, it's Flash, it's most of the golden age powers that came out of the DC and Marvel are still just being repeated now. I mean, when's the last time you guys went into a comic store or watched a movie like where there was something really unique? You were like, wow, that's pretty creative. I mean, there's sometimes people are doing blends of stuff, but most of the stuff is still invisible, stretching, shrinking, growing. Mm-hmm. You know, whatever you want to do, and then you can make it kind of cool. So really, it's just the settings that you put your characters now. And the dialogue that you give most of your supporting characters are almost as important as the character itself. You know, because I don't need another Superman character. If you take like that current show that's popular, who's the one that has they took the slant on Superman, and now that he's a crazy guy.
You're talking about The Boys.
The Boys, okay. That was still, The Boys is still just the Justice League. It's still just Aquaman and Batman and Superman, but it's the way they decide to interpret the characters. What if you had powers? There was a movie that came out last year about a young boy that was pretty much the exact origin of Superman, only they made it into a horror movie.
Oh yeah, Brightburn.
So the kid was like killing people and stuff like that, but it was still Superman. So it's okay if we use all the same stuff. We just have to bring our particular experience and our particular mindset to what it is. So, you know, like when you do your writing, you know, think about that. You don't have to sit there and wreck your brain about coming up with a power that's never been used, because that's almost impossible.
Yeah, but when you think you have, then it turns out, oh no, it's been done before. Somebody did it.
Yeah, people, you know, you sit there and you hack out names, you write down names. I mean, you know, I've got notebooks full of ideas, and then I'll think about it, and I'm talking to somebody, and my son, who's, you know, real big into anime now, you know, because you don't, you know, my mindset is from, you know, I graduated high school in 1979, you know, so I don't know everything that's going on that you guys might listen to now, or even people younger than you. So I'm sitting there writing down a character. He says, oh, that's already been done on Kajaiju Juju, some anime cartoon I've never heard of. They got a guy that stretches and pokes people in the eye or something. You know, I'm but
yeah, I know what you're saying.
New under the sun, so just be true to your own experience and what makes you laugh, or what makes you, you know, you have to, all writing, and I don't want to be like comics with just writing, because the art is the major factor too, but all writing has to begin with a story that you like yourself.
Yeah.
You know? If you try to draw, if you talk to most artists and they don't pick up 10 books by the 10 most popular artists and say, hey, I'm going to draw eyeballs like this guy, I'm going to draw arms like this guy, because it's not you anymore. Just do you. Do your unique you, and if you like it, then that's your first fan. then you go try to build on that. And I think we are too much into all of the biggest, who the top guy is, the top girl, whatever now. So we're always trying to ape somebody else. I'm going to be the next one. I'm going to be the next, people that want to rap like Jay-Z or sing like Beyonce. Just sing like yourself. And, and I don't know there is no magic bullet of what's going to catch on, man. It's good. It's a grind to sell comics, which I'm sure you guys already know that.
Oh no, definitely. In terms of I think it's more than just going to conventions, because I think sometimes that's what everybody gets stuck on nowadays. And I'm thinking you got to think outside the box a little bit on how you're going to get it out there.
You really do, and you have to think of the mindset that most of the mechanics, the infrastructure of comics, are so priced out of your realm right now. Obviously, the main break-in of comics now is still the same as it was 20, 30 years ago. If you go do something for Marvel or DC, you're going to get noticed immediately, whether you're a writer or artist. That's the big two. It's always been the big two. But there are other avenues. Obviously, there's second-tier places like Dark Horse or Image or Dynamite Comics. And then there's the whole plethora of independent comics. There's probably 25,000 independent comics, from the guy that goes to a show and sells 6 copies that he printed at Kinko's to a guy that might do a breakthrough and get an article in one of the magazines or actually place on the Wizard chart, or not the Wizard, but the Diamond chart, or be carried in bookstores. The comic stores, the very initial way that comics are sold now, they don't even want to sell your book if you're just coming in saying, hi, I'm Captain Cloud 9. They're like, oh, I never heard of you. So you say, well, how do I get some bookshelf? Well, you don't. And that's just your local shop. What about the other 200 and something shops and 300-400 shops in America, plus, the UK and Brazil and everywhere else they sell comics.
So actually, that I have a good question about this. So when you had when you did have a shop, right?
Yep.
And it was open and everything, did you have creatives that ever wanted to come in there and sell their books in the store?
Always. We did. I ordered a little bit of everything. Obviously, I would order everything because I'm a heavy comic collector and collected everything. I would give everything a try, whether it be if it was a number one or whatever. I'd always buy a couple copies because first of all, I'm gonna put one issue in mine. That's the nice thing about owning a comic shop. You were paying, 50, 60% off of the cover. So I collected everything. So. You give everything a try because you never know what's going to happen. For, obviously Marvel and DC are your main bread and butter to pay your bills, but for every Spider-Man book, there's still breakout stuff that happened, like Bone or the Teenage Ninja Mutant Turtles or Hellboy or Tribe. You don't know what's going to happen. So you have to kind of cover yourself. Some comic stores are only going to carry the mainstream, and sometimes that's just a square footage problem. If you only have like a 600-700 square foot store, what are you going to do? You're going to carry the top stuff. You're not going to carry back issues. But this is less now, but back when I was coming up, there was a lot of what you would consider superstores. They were huge. And you could go in there and get back issues. There was more discovery. Your generation goes in a store and it's a lot of trade paperbacks and what's current. So if you walked in looking for, say, WandaVision is on now, and you want to go buy the first issue of the Vision in the Avengers comics, nobody's going to have that. Only 5% of the stores are going to have that. You're probably going to buy it online or something like that. So our particular generation had much more access to discover new comics and try new independent things. The whole independent explosion came out of the early 1980s. And that's where you had all this capability to just anybody could start a comic company. Or you could believe you could. People always could, but everybody didn't always believe until a lot of people trailblazed the way. Some of the early black comics like Brother Man. Those guys didn't sell in comic stores. They went to the Black Expos and just cranked out some books. Now
that one, I'm not sure if I'm familiar with the one you said, Brother Man.
Brother Man.
I don't think I've ever checked that out before. I don't know. Nico,
you're gonna have to call me for real. I'm gonna give you a whole lesson. I mean, comics, there's a whole history of comics, and you have to decide where you want to dive into it as a comics fan, or do you want to just discuss the comic business? Because there's a lot of people in comics, man, that could care less about comics. And you get that same impression when you watch some of these movies or the television shows. These are just properties to exploit. But I'm sure you guys have watched a movie or a television series. You say, man, this guy doesn't love this character.
Oh, yeah.
He wouldn't have did that. He wouldn't have did this. I mean,
I usually think that you experience that a bit more when you think about like with some of these producers that put out some of these properties or whatnot, and you're like, dang, like you didn't keep any pieces of the continuity that people actually loved. Like I understand an adaptation has to be different.
They don't care, man. and you have to remember, like when you get the early interviews with some guys, you'll put a director on something. Like what's your favorite comic? What's either one of you guys' favorite comics?
You know what? This is gonna sound so cliche, but if I were to say like a comic, I would probably say Naruto. It's a manga, but I consider it to be a comic.
And how about you?
Yeah, mine would be Air Gear as a manga, but if we're talking comics, I mean, Saga is,
I love Saga.
Okay, so take Saga, for example. That would be considered a breakthrough independent comic. That's not Marvel or DC. Mm-hmm. Okay, when Saga came out, it slowly, methodically built an audience, because it was a really good book. Their art is kick-ass, and they couldn't just say, hey, we got Spider-Man, so there's a certain amount of people going to buy it anyways. But you guys know the Saga book, and you've supported it, but then all of a sudden, Saga gets licensed to somebody, and then a guy like me comes in. Not me per se, but say I'm this executive producer or director, and your first interview, you're saying, oh, great, they're about to do my movie, but you hear me start saying, well, I like the book, and I think it's really good, but I want to bring in another villain. I'm creating this villain that I really like, and I'm going to take it out of this city and take it over to this city. They don't care, man. They just want to use the Saga property, but they don't care all the things that you love about the book. Nobody cares.
Oh yeah, I've noticed that. With so many, a lot of them anime adaptations happen to be that way. They just use the name and then just run with it, and then it turns.
That's in comics too. If you look at some of the more popular comics that have been made into TV shows and Netflix stuff and movies, they're not following the comics. They follow the skeleton of the comic, and then they put their own meat and blood in there themselves. What they want to do, and that's okay. If you sell your property outright, that's on you. You're not as much as fault as the people that don't care.
There's a lot of Image comics I've noticed too that have been up on Netflix that they've kind of been adaptating. Like you have like Umbrella Academy. What was another one? They have what's the one with Nico? The other one that I remember you and Patrick were talking about one day. You know what I'm talking about?
That's the thing now.
Get about Magic Order.
Yeah, Magic Order. That's the other one.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing now. Comics now are looked at as just basically intellectual properties that you're dangling a little treat for somebody to take a bite. So you do the comics to almost create this storyboard for somebody else to possibly buy you out, and that's your generation of comics. That's where it's at now. I mean, when I was doing comics, there was no Netflix, there was no streaming and all that kind of stuff. It was just the comic book store. So you really were just trying to make comics. Every now and then there was a movie that had kind of started right when we were at the height. But now, man, you guys, the gambit is yours now to do what you want, if you put some grind in it.
Oh, no, yeah, definitely. It looks like we have, actually, if we've had a lot of comments.
If I got one here, first off, we got Che Baker. He was asking a question. Are powers more of a tool for plot?
No, comic powers are, if you're doing comics, it depends on what genre of comics you're doing. Because, I'm coming from the background of superhero comics. So, yeah, powers are just part of superhero comics. But a lot of the comics that are popular now are not superhero comics. So, a comic can be about anything you want to be, So, no, powers are, I don't know how to answer that real good. But no, if you're doing a superhero comic, you got to have powers. So what I'm talking about is superhero comics.
What about like in the case of like something like The Boys, where the heroes are don't necessarily have powers, or at least most of them don't. But then you have the antagonists that have powers.
But that's the problem, though. You can think that The Boys is about the people that have no powers, but without the people without the powers, with the powers, there wouldn't be The Boys. The whole story is about stopping these guys and showing the excess of and the just the depravity of the characters with powers and what they do, and they're trying to do a snapshot of the real negative impression of a lot of people have of society now, that if you had powers, you would be doing some scandalous stuff. Back in the old days of a little kid that said a magic word and turned into a grown up with a whole lot of powers and then wouldn't save people, like Shazam or Spider-Man with great powers become great responsibilities. People don't think like that now. Now everything is dark. If you like you think about like being invisible, the last 2 or 3 Invisible movies, the character that gets the invisibility wants to go around and kill people and rape women and all because he's invisible. You can't see me, you can't catch me. So I'll go do some scandalous stuff. That's what they do now with powers, and that's what The Boys is. It's just such a cynical look at superheroes because that's what people think. That started when some people decided superheroes are silly. People running around in tights and capes and stuff like that. So then we're going to make it dark. We got to make it more serious. Mm-hmm. And I think that's bad writing. I think because you couldn't think of anything interesting, it's better just to have characters that snap people's necks and kill people, and everything became dark. And you couldn't even create new villains anymore. All you have now, the biggest events are superheroes fighting superheroes. Marvel started killing people, and Civil War, where the heroes are fighting heroes, and DC was doing all kind of dark stuff.
Injustice.
I mean, it was to me when I read comics now, it tickles me. I'm like, damn, what happened to this dude? Dark Reed Richards, and the Cabal, and the just all this crazy stuff that everybody wants to kill each other and sleep with each other's women and stuff. But I mean, if you're a negative person, you're gonna bring your shit to your comics and your writing. I salute you. I
guess some people maybe it's therapeutic. I don't know. We're gonna say, Nico?
No, I was gonna say that's actually an interesting take on it, because I mean, obviously, typically what I hear from people is that, like, if it's dark, if it's real, if it's showing the stress and pain behind the scenes and everything, it's more compelling. It's more real.
Okay, so why has dark become that's more compelling? Okay, why is it like if you look at like the Batman movies, like DC right now, they were like in the beginning, everything was real gritty. They had to be gritty. They didn't want to be silly, so they toned down all the suits. Nothing could be bright. But then Marvel still did the bright stuff and made billions of dollars.
Yeah.
So now DC is almost starting to lighten it up a little bit. It's like, but you can't just be true to what you're trying to do, man. I mean, I don't get, like, if you watch the last, do you remember the Batman Superman one?
Which one? You're talking about
not the Justice League. It was Batman and Superman with Lex Luthor was in it. He was the main villain. Doomsday, and they introduced Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
If you do the body count of Batman from the beginning of that movie, and I'm not talking about the branding or the beating up people. I'm talking about killing people.
Yeah. Which is kind of out of his character.
He killed about 36 people through this movie, and I'm like, wow, that's funny. That's funny. This is supposed to be Batman that doesn't use guns, but he's got. I
found that odd too. Actually, they
shoot him with a gun, and he returns fire with a gun and blows them to smithereens. And he's like stabbing people. I mean, he's doing, but whatever. That's. It doesn't have to be dark. I mean, Spider-Man gives you that, and those movies made billions of dollars. There was nothing dark in there. There was nothing. He wasn't snapping anybody's necks. It was still corny.
But just, like to play a little bit of devil's advocate with that. Like, do you think that maybe they're just like, well, we just wanted to try a different take with the character,
and that is your prerogative. I'm not saying that you have to stick with light, bright, and corny. Golly G type stuff. I'm not saying that. I think the writer should take it wherever he thinks he should take it to complete his story. I think there's been a knee-jerk reaction to think that darker and grittier is better. And I think people are using it almost as a crutch now, and so be it. Do what you want. It's just my opinion. My opinion that nobody has taken a look at the comic industry. Like if you read the articles of the fact that nobody's really reading comics anymore. I
don't even really believe that one. Or that people say that. Like, I mean, I know people say that, but like, I'm surprised that people say that because I'm like, really?
They're going. Let's go just strictly from the business at all on sales. The sales are way down from where they were each year. If you go back 20 years, the comic sales, the actual physical comics, not online, not anything else. Okay, what I've noticed in all the articles I read and everybody talk, they keep saying it's because comics aren't good anymore. They're not written any good, they're not drawn any good. So they keep getting grittier and grittier and grittier, and they want more realistic. And they're saying what you guys are saying, that maybe people want something a little more realistic, a little more this, a little more that. Okay, but how come nobody's ever just looked and says, well, how come they're not selling better? I mean, if you just took comics, skip all of our love of these characters. Let's just go straight business. Wouldn't the first thing you analyze when I bring you into my company, I say, look at the books. Wouldn't you start just analyzing sales and say, what happened this year that we lost 50%? What changed here? We lost another 50. What changed here? Why are we going down? What is the cycle that's going on? Wouldn't you analyze that first?
Most definitely. Yeah, that makes the most sense. Why wouldn't you? Because at the end of the day, there's got to be a cause for it. People aren't just disappearing or losing interest for no reason.
Okay, so let's take the biggest people that put out comics, Marvel and DC. If the sales keep going down, why do we have the same clowns still writing all the books, editing all the books, and in charge? They can't do it. When you in any other business, when you switch it out, you have a pizza joint. And your manager, pizza sales are going down. It's either the manager or the cooks or whatever. Don't you start? I mean, it's the same.
You're right.
When I look at comics, if I go to the comic store and I buy some comics, or I go online, there are a lot of new things out there, and there are a lot of new guys and a lot of young guys. But I still see some of the same people. The same people. And I'm not saying it's their fault, but some of them it is their fault. Some of the editors that are making these decisions, some of the publishers that are making these decisions, some of them are part of what's driving this stuff down into the ground. And nobody wants to take responsibility. Everybody just wants to, hey, remember Well,
no, that is very true what you're saying. Because I'm thinking, I'm like, at first I'm thinking, when you're talking about like comics, I'm like, oh, comics as a whole. But I'm like, no, I guess if you're talking about like prints, like, yeah, that is very true. And it's because, even especially during this pandemic, if you look at the numbers, in terms,
it's great.
It's still been pretty much the same thing going down, I would say, virtually somewhat of the same rate, in terms of more like the superhero genre. And you would think
well, everybody keeps saying if somebody tells you something long enough, you will start believing it. So if everybody keeps telling you that the superhero genre is dead, then you immediately, if you're entering something, you're going to think, I better think of something else. I need to think of, whatever. I'm going to do sword and sorcery, or I'm going to do fantasy, or I'm going to do soft porn, whatever the hell your thing is. I mean, if your thing is anime, I think you should do anime. But I don't think if I told you, hey, anime is so 1980s and it's going to eventually fade out, don't listen to me. You should do anime. Everybody should do the passion they want to do. If I start writing comics again, I'm going to do superheroes. I don't care what's hot right now. I only care about entertaining myself first. Then I plug in the business aspect of it because I have to enjoy what I'm doing. If that's the case, then we'd never be doing our passion. We'd be doing what everybody else is doing all the time.
No, you're right.
So that's a thing with me when I write comics. I start with stories I like to see and things that make me laugh. I mean, I like the comedy aspect of it sometimes. So whatever your process is, stick with your process. And then you show a few friends, and let's say you write a joke and you show it to some of your friends and they still got a straight face, man, go back to the drawing board. A lot of people. Do you know any comedians? Comedians?
Yeah, I keep up with a fair number of them. I mean, I'm like, what was it, Kevin Hart, of course. I think everybody likes.
No, not stars. But I'm saying, do you have any personal friends that are comedians?
Oh no, not personally.
Or actors or anything. I mean, anything. I just think any kind of art we do, I think we need to run it by people that care about us first, you know. So I'm not gonna go do some stand up
audience
and not do it by my brother and my friends and stuff. So they're like, oh, dude, that ain't funny. You know,
I think though, but don't you run the risk though, like with like in some people's circles, like of their friends being like, yeah, it's all good, and then turn around and then they throw it out there and people are like, what the hell is this? You know?
Well, to me, that's not a good friend though. That's just an echo chamber. I mean, if you got friends that are just gonna pat you on the back and say, do it, dude, you doing it, you're killing it. That ain't really that's a friend that's okay with you being embarrassed out there. I mean, I'm the type of guy, so I'll tell you this right now. If you want to call me later and talk comics or something, if you want me to help you do something or your writing or your art or whatever, and if you don't want me to be honest, don't send it to me.
I'm with you on that. You gotta keep it real.
I'm gonna tell you this is not ready. You know, it's not, I'm not gonna tell you, I'm not just gonna bash you just to bash you, but I'm gonna say you need to tighten this up, you maybe need to, you know. And I think we should all be helping each other like that. I don't think anybody should be putting out stuff that's substandard. You don't have to nowadays. You know?
I agree 100% on that one. You know, I think that's like I know there's a lot of people who experience that. You know, where they probably have like people who are kind of like in an echo chamber. You know, and they don't get the real opinions. You know that they probably should get. You know, so I mean, I guess in this case, people need to change their circles, right?
Well, change their circle or stop the way you ask people to give you feedback. Don't. You know, sometimes how you accept feedback is why you get the type of feedback you get too. You know, people get mad if you say that what they did wasn't sweet or my art. You know, my art look good. What are you talking about? This don't look good. I'm like, no, dude, it don't look good. You know, that's my opinion. Now ask a few more people. You know, it's not gonna be one opinion. You know, but I think just tighten. I think we all could just tighten our stuff up a little bit, man. When I look at what you call independent comics, let's get off the Marvel DC thing for a minute. Independent comics, for the most part, has not changed to me. You know, and I'm not going to disparage any individual, but when I go to the conventions, when I go online, when I buy books, I support a lot of people's stuff. I'll go to people's Kickstarters and send money. I'll buy things and stuff like that. But I'll be honest, man, it's a 50-50 chance the stuff is going to be awful. You know, and to some degree, I'm not talking about just that I didn't like the story. I'm talking about there have been things that I have bought at conventions, and I'm like, come on. Come on, you didn't think this was ready. I mean, let's say something as simple as like the panel's just crooked. The way wherever you got it printed or wherever you got it copied or something. Come on, man. You know, you didn't even check this, or misspellings or that kind of stuff. That has nothing to do with your writing. You could write a kick-ass story, but then your boy letters it, and he does all kind of misspelling. And let's say your mother's an English teacher, and you didn't even have her kind of proofread it for you, and your thing came out looking nasty. Like you can't even spell. I mean, come on. I mean, those are like the really horrible aspects of stuff like that, or the marketing of something. When you go to shows and guys or gals are sitting at the table and they don't even look up at you when you walk up to their table. They're on their phone and they say, you know, they might look up at you saying, hey, and they look back down. I'm like, what are you trying to sell here? Because I don't know who you are. It's not Spider-Man or X-Men or Naruto. It's, you know, JoJo's comics. Okay, you're here to sell JoJo's comics, right? Well, sell it to me. Tell me.
You think a lot of comics, like a lot of comics professionals, don't really have the best like.
Oh man, like that hasn't changed. I mean, I went up to a table one time. I should bash people by name, but I'm not going to. But anyways, this guy had a comic.
If this was a stream where we were just like uncut, I'd be like, let's hear the names. Now I'm messing with you though. But.
No, I don't care. I'm not in the business no more. So I could bash people by name. It don't matter to me. But I walked up to a guy. He had about 20 books there, and the books were all about $4 or $5 or whatever. So I said, "Are these all your books?" He said, "Yeah, this is my company. It's my universe, whatever." So I said, cool. I say, well, so tell me a couple of books would be a good start to get to know your stuff. I'll buy a couple of books. He said, well, they're all good. So I said, I understand, but I can't buy them all. And I know they're all good. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, where's a good entry point to your universe? Well, I couldn't say that because they're all good. I was like, I just walked away. I mean, that's the kind of stuff, man, there's all kind of ways, like we blame why we're not successful in any type of thing in comics. And I'm going to say us, because we're all comic guys. At whatever level of comic guys you are, you guys have a podcast. You know, I did some comics back in the day. You're trying to do some comics right now. You're trying to write. So we're all part of this industry or business or whatever you want to call it. So, and then we have friends that are part of it too, that we can all network with and improve on. But if we're not going to take any constructive criticism, or we're not really trying to do this to improve, what is the point? Is this just like a big old circle jerk where you're just trying to, oh, well, I'm so great and my shit's the best?
I mean, for some people it is, to be honest with you, even though it's
I want to have fun, but I want to make some money. It's still the comic business. This is not the comic hobby, unless you're just a collector who likes to read comics and you stick them in a plastic bag and in your box and you just keep buying it.
No, that is a great point you just brought up.
You guys are in the comic business. I assume you're doing this podcast to increase your audience, to increase your reach, to learn stuff, and to network with people that can ultimately tie back into what some individual pursuits that you probably had. Like you just said, you want to write some stuff.
Oh yeah.
How about you? What do you want to do?
I'm writing and getting back into drawing stuff. Yeah.
There you go. So ultimately, this podcast is a vehicle, and you want to run it professionally, and you want to have your guests be handled properly, and then each person you interview is just another. How should I say? It's just because I just like your other guests, just become another asset of yours that you can reach out to and talk to. I might have nothing good to say, but that doesn't mean you can't pry everything that I have to say out of me. And then you look at it in its totality and say, I can't use none of this. But the other guests, I mean, that's the nature of, like, back to what I said of how I got started. That was the nature of why the comic shops and the conventions and everything you're doing is this continuous to network, to either sell comics, to either expand your reach and whatever you're trying to do, or get involved in something professionally. But everything should be thought about as business. You guys look like you have a very precise plan of what you're trying to do, how you reach out to people, how your logo is situated, how you promote on YouTube, everything you're doing has a plan behind it. Now, that's up to a million other people to decide whether it's a winning plan or a losing plan or whatever, but you have a plan. Most people don't have a plan. So you're working your plan right now. Now, of course, after this is over, I'm going to have a million things I want to tell you what you could do. I have opinions, and you can take it or leave it. But
no, of course.
You should be trying all the information you can get out of every guest you talk to. Every person you get, because each show, I don't care if it's the most minor detail. If you say, the next show, I'm now going to do this, or the next show, I'm going to reach out like this, then it just takes one. Everything in business should either be standing still to observe or moving forward, but never go backwards.
Oh no, I can agree with you with that for sure.
If you can't move forward, then stand your ass still and listen, observe, look, but don't move. Don't move. And don't let anybody take your space, and don't move back. Okay, or move forward. That's the only choices, and that's how has always worked for me in anything I did. That I have to set a goal that is so far there, that's what I'm chasing, not just, I'm just going to do this.
Okay, real quick. I noticed we've had a lot of comments come through.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to get through catch us all up on the comments really quick.
He's got a couple.
These are gems.
Yeah.
These are gems. All right,
Imagine TV. Preach, brother.
Preach, brother.
All right. Umbrella Academy is a Dark Horse comic. Let's see here. All right. Che Baker. I have a few favorite comics. I have a few favorite Spider-Man titles. Daredevil is probably consistently my favorite, especially Frank Miller. Manga, it's between Full Metal Alchemist and Naruto.
Cool. Frank Miller, Daredevil. You got good taste.
I like Kenyan Osura and Berserk 2.
I'm not familiar with those. I will check those out, though.
All right, Royal City. Do you have any comic book shops in the Metro Detroit area?
Does anybody know? No, I don't have any more. I closed down in, I believe, 2014 was a big bust in the comic industry for the most part. And I'm not going to blame that bust on why I closed. I closed because it just wasn't making enough money. And I just started going back into my roots has been promotion and electronic music and throwing parties and festivals and stuff like that. So I have a festival I do, but always promoting. It's called Charivari Detroit. It's an annual electronic music festival in Detroit.
Can you look that up a little bit more? I can't see it that well. Hold on.
Woohoo!
Oh yeah, that's a nice logo right there.
If you see that logo, that's my festival. It's always the first week in August downtown, except for this year we had COVID, so we streamed it. But it's a free festival featuring over 100 different DJs, all electronic music, be like house, techno, dance, disco, all that type of stuff. But promote. But hey, back to comics, right?
All right. Let's see here. Che, okay, probably darker to get a casual audience. Okay, I think it's in reference to earlier with we were talking about that.
Well, that's all debatable. To answer Che's question, it's all debatable about whether darker gets you a better audience or a casual audience or whatever. I think whatever you promote the shit out of, excuse my language, that's what's going to get you your audience. I mean, I go into shows. When I went to shows, I didn't show up to shows with the amount of books I thought I could sell. I showed up to shows with as many books as I could carry. Now, many times, I'm not going to sell no circle jerk that I could sell 1 billion comics. I mean, there was many shows that we were mad that we had to go back to the airport with 4 cases of books. But what about the show that we didn't? I mean, we would show up with as much stuff as we could carry and ram on a plane, and we had that we could put on a cart. And of course, traveling through planes is a little bit different now, how you have to pay by pound and stuff like that. It was a little bit different. But I didn't show up with a show with 60 books or 18 books or 30 books. Like I notice now, like I'll talk to some of my friends in the business, and I'll say, how'd you do at this show in Kansas City? They go, oh, we sold out. I'm like, if you notice, that's a big thing people say now that we sold out. I don't know why that's so cool. Sell out means I should have had at least one more book to get some more money out of somebody. So I always just congratulate people and say, that's cool that you sold out. And then I started thinking for a second, wait a second, what are they really talking about? So I said,
I brought 5 books with me. We sold out.
So I said, how many did you have? He said 30. And then I'm like, oh, 30. Okay. I mean, and that's whatever, no shade on that, whatever the goal that you put on yourself. But I think you could have carried more than 30 of your books, in whatever you're carrying, your duffel bag, your suitcase, or whatever. 30 books is what, about 2-3 inches?
Yeah, probably, depending on how many pages.
Okay, so I want to carry some books. I want some T-shirts, some hats, some buttons. I want to be like a circus when I come in town. That's how I am, so however I got to make that happen. If I have to ship this up, a friend that lives in that city, whatever, I'm coming big every time. Now, sometimes I got to go home big too, carting the same crap. I mean, I've been to shows and had stacks and stacks of T-shirts and sold zero. I've been to shows with 4 cases of books, which at that time was 800 books. And you sold 12. That's horrible. You didn't even buy lunch. But that's the business, man. I mean, go all in, man. You only gonna get one time to do it.
No, yeah, you're right. When it comes to that, I can understand that. Honestly, I think when it comes to people going to shows and selling and stuff, at least from obviously, you will know a lot better than me. Seeing as what you've done. On the grand scheme of things, but in terms of like getting out there, I feel like people have to have a little bit more charisma too when they're trying to sell their product. Would you agree with that or no?
Charisma comes in handy, but just being friendly is a good start. I mean, don't confuse that you have to be, suave or dress a particular way or be silky smooth or whatever. It's not. And some people at comic shows aren't even friendly. They're not even friendly. They're not even smiling. Or you don't care about your setup or your book. What the hell should I care about it for? You're grimming me as I approach you, or you're talking. You're more interested. If you two guys went to a show, I mean, I could just tell. You read people a little bit. I could tell a little bit about your own body language and how you guys handle this. You guys are friendly guys, okay, and you're confident guys. You're not. If you guys set up a table. So to give you an example of what people do, you guys set up a table. You guys talk to each other all the time, correct?
Oh, yeah. We're like brothers.
Okay. So when you get to the convention, is it time for you guys to talk together, or is it time to talk to everybody else that's in that room?
Definitely everybody else in the room, that's for sure.
That's one of the first mistakes I see everybody make. These teams, these writer-artist teams, or these creative teams, or these comic company teams, they go to the show and they're sitting there talking to each other. That angle.
Oh no, I've seen that before plenty of times. Then you have somebody come to the table and they're just kind of ignoring them.
This is the angle to sell, not. Hey man, yeah, did you see that show last night? Man, it was crazy. Oh shit! Hold on. Let me get this call. Hold on one second. That's what you get at these shows. I'm like, wow, okay. Good luck. I'm not gonna give you 5 seconds as you're talking to your guy that you already been sitting there talking to. You guys were alone by yourself. Okay, I walk up to your table and you still want to talk to each other and tell me to hold on. Why? Throw them damn books you got there.
Yeah. People are sitting up there chatting it up, and then they're looking, then all of a sudden wonder, why didn't I get any sales?
It happens all the time, and then they blame the promoter, they blame the crowd. These people's cheap. These people didn't come to buy nothing, or this promoter didn't have enough people in there. There's a fallacy in comics that the huge shows like San Diego, C2E2, New York, you go to those shows and you're going to sell more. Now, I don't know what people's experience are now. I did not find that to be the experience. Because no matter how big you are, when you go to the bigger shows, you are still competing with hundreds of other guys and gals just as big as you or bigger. Mm-hmm. So if you go to smaller shows and medium shows, first of all, the tables are more affordable. The people that run the shows are usually a little more attentive and friendly. And then you're dealing and competing with a few less people. So some people like the glory of going to the big shows. They think that, oh, wow, I went to San Diego. And then you ask them, well, how'd you do at San Diego? Man, I barely paid my expenses, because whatever. The table might be $1,500. You got a hotel, plane flight, just all the things it takes to be at San Diego. But you could have went to the guy's show in Ohio. Any guy's show in Ohio, just take Ohio or Illinois or wherever, where somebody's going to charge you $150 for a table. You could drive down there, stay in some regular hotel, or drive home that night, and you made $400, let's say. And you say, well, I made $400 there, but I made $2,000 in San Diego. It cost you $2,000 to be at San Diego. It only cost you $150 to be in Ohio, so you came home with $250. So sometimes we're not plugging in the business and really looking at why we're doing it, how we're doing it, and an attack plan. You don't make a plan. Your plan is, I just want to put out a comic. You're not looking at what dates on the calendar is best for your comic to come out. You're not looking at what shows might be the best to hit, because if you live in a city like Detroit, there's a lot of shows in Detroit. So you say, I'm just going to do the shows in Detroit. I'm going to do Andre Bat's show. I'm going to do, Crown shows. I'm going to do the Motor City shows. That's it. Okay, well, why don't you get in the car and go to Ohio or Illinois or Indiana? Whatever your budget is, of course.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of little shows. You even have some colleges that have small shows or whatnot that I think people forget about, or don't count.
People that haven't seen your book. I mean, because you could do the Detroit circuit in 2 or 3 years, man. You've pretty much seen the same people. Mm-hmm. So if they've already bought your, your number one, they're looking at you like they just move. Oh yeah, I got that. Is the next issue come out? And you're like, well, I'm working on it, and they just move on. Mm-hmm. So. I don't know, jump on a plane, go somewhere else, drive somewhere else. I mean, you got, young folks like yourselves, you got plenty of energy, plenty of time.
Yeah, no.
Stretch yourself out a little bit, but I could tell you some things that could put you above 80% of these people in 2 seconds.
What is that?
Well, I'm not gonna tell you on here because then everybody will.
Oh, okay. Now I'm thinking, I'm just like so engrossed in what you're saying. I'm like, oh shoot, you know.
I'm just gonna tell you guys, and then when it works, then you just say thank you.
All right. Well, I appreciate that.
I'm already.
I'm sorry, guys.
Already.
I'm sorry. You know. I know everybody's like, dang, we're all like, you guys just gonna keep us hanging. I'm like, hey, you know, you'll find out in due time with through our actions. That's how you'll find out.
We got more comments here.
So are you guys working on the company together, or is it separate books, or?
Yes, we're a part of it, and of course, there's other people that are involved with it as well. So of course, we're the main two. We're the founders.
And when do you want to launch?
Well, we've actually already launched, but right now we're kind of in I guess we're in a standing still type of period, if you want to say, on our comics end. But we're getting ready to do a big release this year. We can talk about a little bit more.
Okay.
After all of this, but
did you find that COVID kind of punched you in the stomach of what you had planned?
Not exactly. Actually, in a weird way, it actually helped out in our favor. I don't want to say that in a negative way, but because I know obviously
I get it. I've heard that from some people that COVID really put people in I'd have to say, even for my brand, as far as the festival brand, having a physical festival. I was drawing from Detroit and the surrounding areas that people want to jump in a car and come hear electronic music. By going to the internet, I automatically expose myself to the world. So as far as my brand is now in a better position worldwide than it was in the beginning. So, so when I emerge out of it and maybe the world opens up and you throw a festival, you've exposed yourself to way more people that now know what you're doing. So I get what you're saying.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Before you get into comments, Nico, I just want to say, because I know we have, not a whole lot of time left. So I know we're going to have to go through the comments, but guys who are watching, if you're just now coming in, obviously, you may have missed a lot, but don't forget to go ahead and throw a like up. I just want to make sure I mention that and share this stream around so that we can end really strong. I want to make sure that we get this out as far as wide as we can. And if you're new to Shining Otaku, make sure you subscribe as well. We got a lot more videos, more than just interviews too. We have tutorial videos, the whole 9 yards. But anyway, let's just continue with this.
So were there any questions that we didn't in the comic book? The boys also had powers. I followed them back in 2004. They had changed everything, but it's still good. Okay, great. Woohoo!
All right. Imagine us. Got to be true to yourself.
Always.
Absolutely. No. Yes, man.
All right. Was so true.
So true.
All right. Did the business side help you in addressing the kinks of comic writing?
Not at all.
All right. Next question. Are you working on any projects right now? Well, I know you mentioned of course, your music, and your music festival that was taking place online last year, of course.
I think the short answer is yes, as far as comic things, and the long answer is there's no creative that's creative at anything that's usually not working on something. Now, there's obviously thinking and working, but then there's also the big thing for most people is doing. So if musicians or something, they're always working on music, but when are they going to release it is the question. Or there's writers. I mean, I can show you, notebooks full of scribble scrabble in my office all around here of ideas and concepts and little drawings and little things. But when is it going to come out is what's important. I mean, I never stopped working on Tribe. Tribe ended in the early 2000s, but I never, really no. The late 90s was completely over, and I've never stopped writing the Tribe stories or dabbling that stuff, and we create new characters and new drawings and all sorts of things, but we're such procrastinators. The question is, when is it going to come out? So every year, I don't know if you guys know Tion.
Oh yeah, of course. Tion.
Every once a year or so, Tion gives me a little nudge saying, hey, it's time to do something, and I listen, and then I get sleepy again, and oh man, I don't feel like doing that. But the bug never. I don't think the creative bug ever leaves you. Once you catch this bug at an early age, whether you've done something or you want to do something, when you're a creative person, and you guys like what you like, and you guys keep that bright look you have in your face right now, and put it into whatever the hell you do. I'm serious. I'm not joking about that. you guys have an enthusiasm that maybe you're just bullshitting me, but it looks real. So if it's real, I know that you're capable of putting that back into the enthusiasm for your project, and don't get distracted by people around you. Don't listen to people's negative stories about, oh, don't do it like that, it won't work. There's 5 or 10 things that we did with Tribe that everybody told us were going to fail. And those were the best things that we had still going, and why people still talk about the book to this day. Something as simple as everybody we showed our prototype cover to said it's not going to work and nobody's going to buy it, because you got to put the characters. It's a new character.
You throw the cover up, Nico?
Yeah, you got to put the characters on the book, because nobody knows what the characters are, what the book is about, and blah, 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 blah. We just wanted to put our name on there, man, in gold. So whatever it was, that was the graphic concept we had. That book sold like hotcakes because of that. Not just because it was an image book, not just because it was a book. That book looked different than any other book on the shelf at that time. And that's what gets a book noticed sometimes. That's what gets your foot in the door. The way we promoted the book. I mean, we never bought pages in the Diamond catalog. We never advertised in other books, man. We got on the grind. I mean, we went to every damn show in every damn city we could find. Not just the big shows, man. We did shows in Nashville, Tennessee, and Louisville, Kentucky, and Alabama. And I mean, we were on the road for months before that book came out, showing people just pictures and hyping up the story.
That was before social media, so I mean,
Yes, man. If I had social media back then, man, we'd be having this conversation from my castle, whatever. But you guys have to take advantage, obviously, the new things that you have now. But we did what we had to do at that time. I mean, you were communicating with stores with fax machines. And not the quick faxes that you guys have. I'm talking about this thing was rolling out of thermal paper. Somebody sent you a fax and you were sitting there like this for 10 minutes waiting for the fax to come out.
Oh, no, I'm familiar with an old fax machine. I have old pen.
So use whatever you have, man. Your phone, your computer, your social media, everything is just a weapon. And just make sure whatever it is, you just have a plan and work your plan. Don't get every point of your plan is not going to work just like you planned it, but keep working that plan. Be dedicated to that plan, and make adjustments. And that's what I see people's tenacity and stuff, man, is only as good as the first gut punch they get. I quit. This is enough. Don't hit me no more. But you want to train to be a boxer or a karate guy or whatever. Your first hit, you want to dish out some punishment. You having fun while you socking people in the face. But the first one you get, like Mike Tyson had a line that everybody has a plan until they get hit.
That makes sense.
But coming from him, it really makes sense. He said all these people come in with their plan, he socked them one time, and you see them they're running the rest of the thing. You guys can do this, man. It's not, don't pigeonhole yourself with thinking you have to be, because you guys are African American, that you got to do a black book.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a book. The book doesn't have to have a race. Even if the characters have a race, the book doesn't have a race. It's just two creators doing a book about some black characters. I mean, we never promoted Tribe as a black book unless that suited us to do that. If you're talking to somebody in the black media, maybe you want to say your black book. If you're talking to somebody just in the regular media, it's just, this is my new book.
Yeah.
Work every avenue, whatever works better for you, not how people think you should do it.
People have to basically be able to adapt.
Yeah, adapt and adjust and keep pushing, and don't get tied into somebody telling you this show is the best show to go to, and don't go to that one, that's too small, or I don't like that guy. I don't care who's doing the show, man. Give me my table and let me go to work. If the price is right or the thing is right, I'm not there for anybody else or any kind of politics or drama. I'm there to sell something, my stuff. That's it. That's all I care about once I sit down. I don't even have a lot of camaraderie. I could have 20 friends in this business, but once I sit at my table, This is my domain. I don't want to talk to you right now. We can talk later. I want to do nothing but sell. That's what we're here for. And that's a lot of people. It's an arena, man. And get in there and just do your thing. You know, get in there and do your thing. And there's plenty of time for camaraderie and conversation and friendliness after the bell rings.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
But if there's those people that come into those shows only have so many dollars in their pocket. So let's say you were at a show where Black folks are coming to get Black comics, and there's 100 of us in there, and all our books sell for $5. They're not buying $500 worth of books, right?
No, you're right.
So how are
going to get so much?
So how do you make sure yours is one of them? And that's going to be on your selling and your charm and your charisma and all these things that we've talked about. And that you got to get that in quick before the next guy does it. You know, I mean, a lot of people aren't going to do it at all, so you got to worry about them. But
how are you going to make sure you're on your strongest game?
You're on your game and you're professional looking, and you see guys come at shows, and the name of your company or whatever. I'm trying to sell Tribe Comics, but I'm sitting there at my table with a Spider-Man shirt on.
Yeah, you know, I'm like, it's kind of interesting. Like when you put like, you're not really even selling your product when you're wearing something else.
You're not even engaged, man. You know, or you see guys, I'm there to sell Tribe, and I'm arguing with some dudes about the latest X-Men movie. Oh man, Wolverine, woo, did you see what he? Man, I don't talk about the X-Men movie.
You know, the only thing I'll say, I'm like, I guess that means sometimes you're gonna have to shoo your friends away, right? Like if your friends come by the table, like,
exactly what you're gonna have to.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I have had a couple moments myself where somebody comes by, like, oh shoot, you know. But I'm like, I'm talking for a second, but maybe not quite to that degree where people are.
But you can tag team a little bit, because if somebody, let's say your cousin shows up, then he takes over for a minute. But once these people are gathered around your table, and then there's somebody walking down the aisle, they're not going to approach a gaggle of people talking and cracking jokes and having a good time. So you're like, hey, I'm selling my book. No, man. Your friends can wait, man. Or, you know, hey, let's have some lunch after, or let's go grab a coffee, or whatever the hell you want to do. You probably just talked to them on the phone that morning. And here they are. Oh, hey, brother.
Yeah, I think some people, you know, get carried away with it. Definitely, when, you know, to the extent that they go through, they have everybody surrounding the table where you can't see it. You know, all the cosplayers are right there.
This is just my opinion. If you really want to do this, man, treat it like when you hit that show, you just punched in. You know, you don't have nobody coming up to your job and discussing movies and all that kind of stuff. Just punch in, man. The shows are what, 5 hours, 6 hours? Give all your money's worth of what you paid for that table or the transportation to get down there, or whatever the hell you did. Punch in and be engaged the whole time, and then punch out. You know, I mean, there ain't nothing that should get in your way besides going to the bathroom. You know, you don't need. To me, it was funny too. It's like I used to go to shows, and some of the big, you know, the big people that got people lining up, they're gone for lunch for 2 hours.
Oh no, I think that's crazy when I see situations like that.
The show usually the show started at about 11 o'clock, and they were over usually about 6 o'clock, where the main thing was done. Okay, so that's 6 or 7 hours for a grown ass man. Okay,
missing out on a lot of money.
You had to go take a 2-hour lunch. Really?
You had to hang out at the con. No, I'm kidding.
You know, me and Larry were kind of funny. We never left the table, man. It was like never. Once you sit down, it was like we were working for like you were starving, man. You were working for your meal. We're going to be trying to talk, laugh, socialize, sell. While he's drawing pictures, I'm selling. If I'm talking to somebody, he's talking to somebody else. It was, you know, become, you know, you guys are friends, so you should be able to tune into each other. You'll know what to do. You know how to engage. If one person has somebody locked in, you don't even have to join in that conversation. You should start looking for somebody else coming down that aisle.
Right. You know, I'm like, I've even noticed some people have had creative ways. Like there's one guy, actually, he was a guest on our show, actually, Byron Folk. You know, he usually goes to Yomikai. He does this webcomic called Flipside. It's been going on since like the early 2000s.
Flipside?
Yeah, Flipside. Are you familiar with it?
I'm not. I'll check it out, though.
Yeah, and basically one of the things that he actually does, and I remember you experienced it, especially Nico. He holds up these signs, to kind of get your attention.
Yeah.
So it may not necessarily be that he's speaking to you outwardly, but as soon as he catches your attention, he actually has a sign, I think, that says that, like, "Oh, I see, I got your attention."
Yeah,
That's a big ass idea, and I'm gonna steal it until like it was my idea.
I was like,
that's a great idea. I mean, think out the box, man. We used to go to shows and we'd bring all these brand new hats of all these little ideas we have. And you see people come in the hats, and I call people over and say, we do a trade-in hat. Give me your hat, I'll give you a new hat. And then we'd have a basket of hats at the table and have all these other characters' hats in this box. And people will be like, why I gotta give you my? I said, do you want a new hat? Because the hats are like busted up half the time. So I'm like, take my new hat. So I gained two things. I got rid of somebody else's promotion as you're walking around this table. You're walking around the rest of the show with my logo on your hat. So somebody else might say, hey, what is that? Oh, that's those guys over there. They're giving away free hats. So I've got you working the show for me, and, you've made another connection with somebody. It slowed them down. It made them have a conversation, crack a few jokes, be friendly, whatever the hell you got to do. Come out of your box, just a little bit. Well, I'm not that social. Well, what are you doing here?
You got to get a little social at the shows.
You came here to sell something. You're telling me you're not that social. Well, stay home then. Hire somebody. Hire somebody to sell your stuff. Maybe you shouldn't show up. You might be your own worst enemy. I don't know. But there's just a lot of things you could do, man. But just do something.
All right, so I want to use these last few minutes to try to get through a little bit more of these questions. We probably won't be able to get to everyone's because there's a lot of questions that have come through so far. So I apologize for that, everybody.
Do a rapid fire.
All right, so we have OAW Entertainment. What's up, Larry? Greetings, gents. Okay, question for you, Todd. What advice would you give in terms of getting your story edited? Do you recommend hiring an editor outside the creative team, or maybe even adding them to the creative team?
I didn't find editors to be all that useful when I'm doing my own thing, but I think what you need is a proofreader and somebody that understands the English language to make sure how you're writing is good. And I'm not poo-pooing editors, but I just think when you're with a tight creative, you're a tight creative team with each other, you really don't need an editor. Editor is kind of a corporate type thing for companies that have multiple books coming in. An editor is for me is to keep you within the company's guidelines. Like I've written some things for Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, and the editor kept me within what they want and how the character's being used or what you can't do and things like that. So I don't find, from my own intellectual property, I don't need an editor to tell me what I should have done. I'm going to write what I want, and then I just want to make sure it sounds right and it's flowing right. And that's just between ourselves and the proofreaders that I get to read to make sure I'm speaking the King's language. Too much slang or bad punctuation or whatever, make sure I'm, following the standards of whatever. So getting your story editor, for me, and just my opinion, no.
Okay. Next question, Amen, coming from Imaginos TV. Next one, it's dope. Royal City. Todd, how do you feel about big-headed, independent comic book creators that have somewhat of a buzz and they come off as pompous jerks to a newer guys getting into the business?
Who cares what they're doing? That's your first problem. If you're a newer guy getting into the business, who cares about the other guys? Just worry about yourself. You don't have to worry about who's big-headed, who's nice-headed, whatever headed you want to do. Who's a jerk, who's an asshole? Why should I care about who's an asshole? I'm not paying attention to him either. I don't care what anybody else is doing. Work your plan. Work your plan, period.
Okay, next one. Trying to get let me see here. Trying to get where they're at and becoming top tier. Do you correct them as an OG in the business?
I don't correct anybody that hasn't come to me and asked me my opinion. Anybody that's reached out to me that wants to get the information that I have in my head, which is just my experience. My experience nothing I say might not even work for you. That's why you have to kind of shift through what anybody tells you that's good advice. And, there's things you can use and there's things you're not going to be able to use. So I don't come off. I haven't contacted anybody and say, hey, I heard you're doing this book, guys. I got some opinions to give you. I mean, I really just, I talk to people. I have friends, I have associates, but I do offer myself for whatever I do know. I offer myself up to anybody that's in the business. If you want to talk, hey, I'm easy to get to. I'm on Facebook. I'm out and about a lot, whatever. My main background is not even comics. My main background is marketing. So from a standpoint of marketing, I do know how to sell things, and that doesn't have to do with it comics. That's with anything. You have to promote and market something and how to get attention for the least amount of money and the most amount of payoff. I know how to do that. So there's principles of just marketing 101, promotion 101 that I could share with anybody. I could give you a couple of books off my shelf right now, which I'm gonna give you guys that would just the principles of something. It has nothing to do with comics, just the principles of marketing a product you could plug into your comic and improve, or your podcast or anything. You could improve anything. Anybody could. Just read. And I think some people they'll spend money on all kind of new things like the new computer or the new thing to do this and do that, but just go online, look at a subject matter like marketing or promotion. Just buy one book every 3 months. And that's like an investment of, you buy some used book off of Amazon for $8. It's slightly used, slightly who cares what it looks like? The pages are fine. Read that book, go through it, from the front to the back, and highlight everything that was interesting to you. And then plug that into what you're doing. You're gonna get some improvement. And that's an investment of nothing in yourself. At the end of the year, you might spend $40 on some books, man, but I guarantee you're going to be crammed with some stuff. Even like working social media, everybody thinks you just sign in for your Facebook or your Instagram or your Twitter account or whatever. And that's great. We all know how to do that. But there are books, simple books that will just tell you how to maximize certain things that exist in these things, just the mechanics of it I learn something every day. When I first got on Facebook and stuff, my daughter was like, well, how come you're not tagging anybody? I'm like, what's tagging? Say you expand because you know a lot of people, instead of just posting, if I then tag this person, then you appear on their Facebook too. I didn't know none of that. And this is back in the day, but it's like, so I started buying books about stuff. I like marketing, so I have a whole collection of marketing books. And a lot of them are just repeats of the same crap. But every now and then, there's one little feature I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna try that. So just what do you have to lose by trying something? It didn't work for you. Okay, move on to something else you highlight. And just invest in your own the intellectual pursuit of doing something business-wise too. And stop thinking about it just as comics. Think about it just as business. And some of the principles of promotion, marketing, advertising, they plug into whatever you're going to do. Just use it. Work the plan. It's because this is not like you have to create a new wheel, man. This stuff works for a lot of things. Open a restaurant, it's the same. I'm gonna hand you the same book. Open a strip club, I'm gonna hand you the same book. It's how do you promote it? How do you get the most people to know about it for the least amount of money? Because you're not gonna promote your comic and you're not gonna buy a ad during the top TV show. You can't afford it. You're not going to be at the basketball game handing out flyers to everybody there. That's silly. So you learn about niche marketing and targeted marketing just to your target market stuff. But that's a long story. I'd rather, did I answer that guy's question? I think so.
Oh, yeah, they're very thorough.
Don't worry about the big-headed people. Don't worry about the assholes. Who cares what any guy thinks about your stuff that's sitting at another table?
Okay, so I want to end on the last comment that I see here. I do apologize we couldn't get to everyone's comments today, but Shay says, "Businessman, this is what we needed to hear," and I think that applies exactly to what you're saying right now.
Take away the comics thing and think about the business thing before you even write your first book. Think about the comic business and how once your book is finished. How do you get it into most people's hands, get the most attention, get the most thing? And man, I think sometimes people think in any kind of business when there's other peers and other people in this, back to what the guy was saying about the big-headed guys and stuff like that. This is not, the whole like rap thing, or we're gonna have a beef with so-and-so and all this kind of thing, man. I don't concern myself with that. I'm a grown-ass man. I took my money and invested in what I'm trying to do. And that's the only thing I'm trying to protect is my investment, my partner's investment, and then what we're trying to do. If you kind of go into everything like with blinders, you're not even paying attention to this guy's got a better table or his setup looks better. When you look at somebody else's stuff, it should be just something to try to improve yourself. Instead of hating on somebody who's got a better banner, look at it, go up and hey man, where you get this banner from? Who printed your comic? Where'd you get that button from? It's just, you should just be gathering intel to improve your shit, not to bash their stuff. Obviously, you're not going to go over to somebody's table that you think looks worse than your stuff and say, hey, man, who printed your stuff? I don't want to know who printed your stuff. But if you come over to my table or something and my book is all shiny and whatever, the way you want to look at your book, and I said, you say, where you get your book printed? Oh, this guy is Davis Printer out in so-and-so. And you say, thank you, that's cool. You call Davis Printer and find out for yourself whether it works within your budget or what you want to do. Don't be sitting there, man, and think he's something. Because he got this shiny book. He's an asshole. I don't like the way he talked to me. Man, who cares? Who cares, man? Own people, man. This is not.
People get caught up in their feelings rather than looking at, the actual business side.
Just business and yourself. Focus. I mean, be aggressively focused on yourself. And that right there puts you ahead of 30-40% of the people that are out there, man. They go into the show looking around, who got this and who got this? Why he over there? Why he over there? Stop worrying about all that. You can get people, I don't care if they put you in the very back of the show at the last table with the light bulb burnt out. You better find you a way right then. Send a dude, one of you guys better run to Target and buy some candy or whatever and stand at the door talking about, hey, it's free, this is such and such at the table. However you got to snatch anybody else's glory, long as it's legit. I'm not saying you could be standing in front of somebody else's table trying to reroute people, but you better find a way to be out in that hallway promoting your thing. Hey, I'm at table G7, way in the back. But if you come back there before 2, you get a free candy bar, whatever. I'm exaggerating, but you know what I'm saying? Don't just sit there crying the whole day, man, they gave us a terrible table. Nobody's coming back here. No, man. I know. You can't just accept defeat or accept whatever bad hand somebody dealt you. What's that old line about? You get lemons and make lemonade, right?
Yeah.
No, yeah, I know what you're saying. Now, I know, Nico, you're probably like, dude, I'm gonna choke you right now because I have another question.
Before you go on, ladies, gentlemen, guys and gals in the comment section. Sorry, that was the last comment we could get through. Thank you for coming in, for chiming in. We're gonna roll with the last bit of our questions here. Go ahead, Cloud9.
Oh yeah, we just have one last question for you. It's something we ask everyone that comes on the show.
Tradition.
And you kind of already partially answered this earlier, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it anyway. What is your end game creatively? Like, do you have an end game creatively?
End game?
Yes.
Like, what are you trying to get out of this?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. What do you see? Like, okay, creatively, I don't want to sound morbid, but basically, when you're, what do you want your whole legacy creatively, no matter what it is, whether it's in comics or anything, what do you?
It's that word you said. That's what I want. Legacy. Legacy for me is that my book or my creation or my name stands past the creation itself. So if I look at Tribe, it's a book that was created in 1993, and I'm here on a podcast with some friendly young dudes in 2021 talking about a book that's almost 30 years old that most of your audience has never even heard of, but yet my record of selling the most for African-American creator doing the African-American still stands. So in 30 years, including Marvel and DC, nobody has beat that. That's legacy. That's what I do this for. And the first time I even thought about coming back is when Taisha Coates and I know this guy, Brian Stelfreeze were put on the Black Panther #1. And I'm looking at that. I'm like, oh shit, they're gonna sell more than we sold. I got just like print up some more comics. I sold one more than they did, but they didn't make that number either. So the legacy of something is to do something that stands the test of time, and then the things that I have to say or the things I want to do, I can still pass that on to other people. I mean, I've helped a lot of people in this business, people that you don't know, or people that might not even admit it, you know, or anything that you guys are doing on your book. If I can help you guys, that's part of my legacy, that I earned the right and I earned the knowledge through my own grind to now have something to say that I could actually pass on to somebody else that's worth some type of gem that you could use. If I could tell you one thing that you guys later on would say, man, I'm glad he told me that because I saved $10, or I should, you know, I didn't turn left because I turned right. You know, I don't care what it is, I could tell you. That is the legacy of what I'm striving to end, like you say, when I'm dead.
I didn't want to be morbid about it. I was like,
that's a long time from now. But,
yes, I agree.
But when somebody says, you know, Todd Johnson or Tribe, or Larry Strong, Todd Johnson Tribe, I want them to say, oh, when that book, we made a list one time, I think about Image Comics, which we didn't have a great dealing with Image Comics, but that's a whole nother long story. But somebody did an article, one of the comic magazines did an article about the top 10 comics of Image that changed the whole world of Image Comics. Now, this company's been around since the early 90s now. And there's been lots of books like Walking Dead and Spawn and all these things people always talk about. But we were in that top 10. So I said to myself, first of all, I know the founders of this probably hate that we're in this list. But there we are with that black ass cover and that shiny ass gold, once again, being part of a legacy that people remember. People remember us at shows. People remember the book. They remember even things like this, you know. You know, my wife sometimes asks me, well, why do you do little podcasts or interviews and stuff like that, and you're not even putting the book out anymore? I said, hey, most of the time you don't even talk about the book so much. You talk about this information.
I appreciate you coming on today.
And you exchange ideals and conversation with people to, you know, to hopefully, I don't want to use something corny as inspire, but hopefully at least engage conversation to further this culture. This is a culture. The whole comic book thing is a culture, and it's a culture that in the wrong hands, it's going all different directions and stuff. And it takes a constant pouring of new ideas and new youth and stuff like that to keep it on track, you know. And I salute everything you guys are doing with, you know, with the podcast. If there's anything I can help you with, reach out. You know, when you start working on your project, if there's anything I can help you with, or anybody that you have that needs help, I'm game. For free, too. All information is free.
Well, I appreciate you coming on today, Todd. Like, really, you know, and I mean, like I said, we were sitting in front of a legend today. So, I mean, you know, like I've been wanting to talk to you for a long time. Of course, as soon as we're done with the stream, we're going to talk a bit more. But
yep, feel free to reach out anytime. I'm serious. And if there's anything I can help you with, that's not just lip service. I will.
Appreciate okay, it. So guys, I don't know if you want to close us out in.
All right, so we went like 23 minutes over from what originally we were doing, but you know, when we really get into it, you know, into the talk, into a guest, you know, this happens. So shining lights out there. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, comment. You want to you got any questions or you want to discuss things, hear more.
2 weeks.
All 9.
I was going to say in 2 weeks, you know, of course, you know, every other week we have a stream. So 12 episodes in the season. This is season 3. So you can expect to see our next guest on January the 31st. So be ready for that, 9 p.m. Eastern time, you know, as always. Anyway, go ahead and close it out in.
Everyone.
Oh, make sure you also check out, there's a Tribe page. Make sure you also check out, I can't even say it. What is the name of the festival?
Charivari Detroit.
Charivari Detroit. Make sure you also check that out as well. And I'm sure, is there going to be one this year? Or is it going to be just virtual?
Right now, that depends on what COVID decides. COVID's in charge of all things as far as live entertainment. So whatever COVID decides, that's what we're going to do. But we always engage like it's going to happen. So we're already promoting 2021. Our theme is kind of Welcome to the Future. And actually, there's going to be a lot of comic type things associated with that as far as our DJs, the new superheroes and stuff, the way they're talked about and stuff like that. So we're actually going to do something creative DJ wise and comic wise.
I'm gonna have to definitely come to that especially
if I just thought about something like the whole thing that you said about what you would want to impart to somebody. Anybody that's listening to this that does comics, and even this for you guys yourself, whatever you're thinking, set your goal even higher. You know what I'm saying? And that would kill all those people that talk about they sold out or they printed this many or whatever. If you set your own goal higher, just try more. It's like, we all, me and Larry always joke like 1 million sold, 1 million sold. We didn't plan on selling 1 million comics, but we believe we could. So I don't ever like to sit here and act like, oh, we thought we were going to be that big. We just thought we wanted to be that big. Chance and fate decide whether they are. That book could have dropped like zinc, and everybody picked it up and said, no way. But you have to at least engage like you believe your shit's gonna sell. Excuse my language. And I think sometimes you limit yourself right out the box. So sky's the limit, guys. Go out there and kill them.
We're gonna end it on that. We'll catch you guys in 2 weeks. Thank you guys for joining us tonight.
And we'll link all the social medias and details for the Chivalry Detroit Festival.
Shivari.
Search below. Shivari.
Thank you for everybody that tuned in.
Thank you. We'll catch you guys later.
Be kind, man.